Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. My name is Stephen, the host of the Endless Celts Podcast, and we have a full panel tonight. We have my co-host John, show regulars Anthony and Ross. How are you all?
Good, mate.
All good,
Glad
Stephen.
to be
All
back
good.
on.
That's it. We're a foursome tonight. Foursome to be reckoned with. Just looking forward to getting started. Talking about another good win for the Celts this weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the foursome. I mean, don't get me excited here, lads. No joke. But like, to start the podcast, obviously, start a wee bit on a somber note here. And former Celtic manager, the man who's famous for stopping the 10 in a row that he's held in such high esteem among us Celtic fans, Wim Jansen has confirmed that he's suffering from dementia. And we at the Endless Celts Podcast all pass on our thoughts and prayers to him and his family. But like, just as a wee nod to Wim Jansen and that famous season and the reason why he's such a legend amongst the Celtic support, I just want a wee memory, if you can, off the cuff about that season. I mean, I was only 4 years old at the time, so my memory is basically zero of it. I just like hearing about it. It's a famous season that many Celtic fans speak about. And I'll come to yourself, Anthony, first for this. Wim Jansen is a Celtic legend for that reason, stopping the 10. And in that season, what stood out for you?
You're absolutely spot on, Stephen. Get in the building, signed the king, stopped the 10, and left side door. Legendary status secured. And it's desperately sad news that's came out this weekend that he's sadly suffering with dementia. And like you say, we'll echo that sentiment that we all send our best wishes to him and his family. I must admit, although stopping the 10 was, of course, an incredible thing in itself, I actually really liked it. I vaguely remember the 95 Scottish Cup final, but apart from that, obviously, we were starved of success in the 90s. So I actually really enjoyed the sort of, it was the Coca-Cola Cup then, as it was, and the match, the final was actually against Dundee United. Always remember it, November 97. We played Dundee United at Ibrox in the Coca-Cola Cup final. And, you know, it's not something that I was very used to seeing at that point, Celtic in a cup final. And, we were 2-0 up within 20 minutes. And, we added the third in the second half. And although, Dundee United had a decent side then, they had the likes of Shell Olafsson and, Sieb Dijkstra in goals. He was a bit of a cult hero, but we just ran over the top of them that day. And it was it was something that we built on later on in the season when we added the league championship to it as well. So, yep, just a legendary figure in football, not just at Celtic, but obviously over in Holland as well. And, all our wishes are with Wim at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think we all echo that. And come to yourself, Ross, whatever memories you have of that season, or even Wim as a character himself, what stands out for you?
I again, first of all, just to echo the sentiments, just that best wishes go to him and his family. But as regards, I mean, it was a great season. Obviously, there was ups and downs. One that sticks in my memory was a 2-1 victory. It was towards the end of the season, a 2-1 victory at Rugby Park. It was one of the games where Celtic sort of had all the possession. They were peppering the goal, and Gordon Marshall he had a really good game that night. But I can just remember, I've obviously seen highlights since, but I never watched the game live. I can remember because obviously it wasn't as easy to watch games live as it is now. But I remember just lying in my room, 14-year-old, listening to the game on the radio, and all you could hear was Gordon Marshall saving this, saving that. We scored, we went up 1-0, and then Kilmarnock pegged us back just before half time, and you're thinking, there's about 6 games to go or something. You're thinking, is this going to be Celtic just throwing it away again? But Simon Donnelly popped up later on in the game. Good bit of play, worked the ball across the box, and Donnelly was there. Ended up 1-1 with Marshall. He just done a wee dink, similar to kind of the goal Salah scored yesterday. I think it was the third one, his hat trick. Just a wee dink over Marshall, and it gets us the win. And it was just before we went to Ibrox the following week. I think it was, and lost 2-0. But that I thought was a big moment in the season, getting that goal, because I think if we'd lost that game, it probably would have just totally crumbled. Or if we didn't get the 3 points, certainly. Because I think Rangers that night had maybe drew, and normally at that time Celtic, if Rangers drew, Celtic would lose or draw as well. But that season, they sort of just took it the other way, and that was a pivotal moment. And towards the end of that season, it always sticks in the memory for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me back then, obviously I was a young Celtic supporter, so I hear all these memories from the likes of yourselves, my granda, other family members, and I just love learning about the history of Celtic. And that season, John, was pivotal in terms of the whole kind of stopping the 10, the significance of that, and that's what made Wim Jansen a legend within the Celtic support. Do you have any lasting memories from that season?
Yeah, I mean, again, I echo everybody's sentiments regarding Wim and his condition, and best of wishes to his family and friends and everything else. But yeah, I mean, that season was hugely significant because I mean, for me, when Rangers started that whole 9 in a row bid, I was like 3 or 4 years old, so I wasn't really old enough to take everything in or to really appreciate the significance of what was about to happen with them and like them going on that run. I mean, so for the majority of my life coming up as a Celtic fan, I watched their struggle, and it was a bit of a boy ache, to be honest. But then obviously Wim Jansen comes in, stops the 10 in a row bid, and it changed their fortunes around significantly. And I thought that in terms of memorable things, I think just as Anthony alluded to, winning that League Cup, which I think was the first sort of one in like a decade and a half, 15, 16 years or something like that, and obviously signing Henrik Larsson, and how big that was and everything he became to be in terms of his status at Celtic and the support. But it was just it was a long time ago now, but it still sticks in my memory, and I obviously appreciate Wim for everything he done for us in that season. And again, it was a turning point for us as a club as well, because if I think the state we were in just prior, a couple of years prior as well, it didn't even look like we would even exist. So, I mean, to go for that, to what we've done was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, some great memories there, guys. And again, we echo our thoughts and prayers are with Wim Jansen and his family. And we'll move on the field Celtic matters. And we played St Johnstone on Saturday. And another routine, it's becoming kind of routine now. These 2-0 victories, clean sheets as well, are coming back into the team, which bodes confidence for the defence, which is fantastic. And the game itself, Ross, I mean, how would you describe it? It was controlled. It seems like Celtic have kind of changed the style and adapted maybe the certain players, because, I mean, we've seen that at the start of the season that the team was just gung-ho from the start. But the last couple of games, especially the Aberdeen, right up to this game, has been more controlled. There's been more kind of, what would you call it, precision, and they're more clinical in front of the goal as well, which is good to see. But in terms of the game itself, what was your overall take from
it? That, just like you say, it was a very controlled performance. That's 4 wins in the bounce now, and I would say certainly the last 3, the all 2-0 victories, have been all the same. They've been very controlled. They've never looked like losing any of the games, although, you know, it's only 2-0, but it's like Franny said a few weeks back, like he would take 2-0s for like now until the end of time. Comfortable 2-0s like that, and ever since he said that, we've just won 2-0 every game, and they were just very, very controlled. Big Greek guy came in, looked a presence, put himself about, and it's just like we spoke about before, but we hadn't seen him. But he looked on Saturday what we spoke about that we hoped he would be. So, I mean, it's all positive off of these games, and it's 4 wins on the bounce. Like I say, I think that's our longest run under Ange, unbeaten, or certainly wins. And I think that only bodes well going forward for the remainder of the season. Hopefully we can keep building on this and maybe get like maybe 10, 12 victories in a row, because it really piles the pressure on, and it keeps us really right up there, touching distance, getting into January, where you would hope that we would probably strengthen a little more. And I think we're well within our rights to feel that we can go and win that league. having strengthened. But I thought it was. I thought Giacomakis trying to, is that how you say it? Hopefully. I think he took his goal really well. Again, Ralston gets an assist. He's played really well on Saturday again. Can't fault him. But as regards to the finish for Giacomakis, I thought it was a really. I think it's the word. This will be the word of the night. I think controlled. He doesn't lash at that. He made it look a hell of a lot easier finish than what it actually was. So first class, and then the penalty kick. You look at that. I mean, that Juranovic is. I think it's evident he's going to be our penalty taker going forward. And he's took 2 penalties. That one, I think, maybe possibly 3, but definitely 2. He took one at Betis as well, and he's stuck them away with just absolute aplomb. He just looks so calm in that situation. You never for a second think he's going to miss. His body language and everything is just what you want to see. So I really enjoyed the game. I can't mind much towards the end of it because I started drinking at the start of the game, and I had a few beers because I was going on a night out, and I started to get a bit hazy towards the end, let's say.
Well, I mean, in terms of what you said there, it was control, and that kind of filtered through towards the end. But coming to yourself, John, in regards to the game, obviously we'll touch upon players and stuff, but as Ross said, the word of this podcast is going to be controlled, and it's a stark contrast to what we've seen in terms of the whole gung-ho mentality, where it was just players flooding forward and leaving gaps in behind. And what I've noticed, especially the last 3 or 4 games, is the back four seem to be more solid. And yes, I give Ralston a wee bit of stick on the last podcast. That's because my personal opinion is I still think he's not first choice or shouldn't be going forward. I think that's going to be Juranovic's position. We just need to sort that left back position out. But like Ross, what was your take on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, as you mentioned, the key words controlled. It was a very assured performance. It was comfortable. I think that the opening like 5 minutes or something was a wee bit shaky because they seemed to press us right for the jump. But once we got control of the game, it was never in any doubt. And I thought it was a very, very controlled performance. And you mentioned there about that backline and the 4. At the back, and they seem to be coming on with each and every game, and they're obviously getting used to playing together, and they're getting familiar with each other. And I want to give a big shout out to Starfelt as well, because he's been taking a lot of stick recently, and he's one of the guys that I've kind of stood by myself, and I've said he'll come good in time, and I think we're starting to see that. I think it'd be harsh to say that he's still not capable, because I think that was if not his best performance in a Celtic jersey, and he's looking more and more comfortable with each and every game. So I think it's just one of the things about giving him time. But I think things are starting to click, it looks like, for me. I could see, you mentioned earlier, something about, has Ange maybe changed up his style or anything? I don't think it's a change of style or nothing like that. I think it's just a case of players are they're starting to get used to the way we're playing. They're getting used to playing with each other, and they're much more confident playing with each other, and that's coming across on the pitch. So I think that, and as the rest of the season goes on, and we've all said it's just going to get better and better for me. And the fact that we've managed to keep a couple of clean sheets and get a couple of away wins, and we're doing what we're doing in the minute, has been fantastic to watch, and I can see it continuing for the rest of the year.
I like the way you said that there in terms of the players kind of settling into that formation and the style of play, because maybe at the start there was confusion. They didn't know where to be, what kind of tactics they were playing, the pressing style. But I kind of think what you're thinking is probably the most correct thing there. They've settled into that style, and it may not look gung-ho, but they're inviting the teams on and pressing the teams in certain areas. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean? That's what I'm
saying. I think that because I mean, it's like I say, if you watch earlier performances, you can see the style that Ange wanted to play, and we all touched on it. We says that it's definitely frantic, a bit fast-paced, attacking football. But as you say, as time has gone on, they're still playing fast-paced. They're dominating possession. They're still pressing really high. We're still attacking teams, and we're getting the lion's share of chances. It's just was struggling to take them all. And that, again, that comes into breaking down 11 men, because I think we're going to see it a lot this year. Is pretty much every team we're going to come up against is going to be defending 10 men in the box and waiting to catch us on a counter attack. And that's how we deal with that. That's going to be the most important thing going forward for us for a defensive standpoint. But you can see with each game that the players are growing into the sort of formation and the style, and I think that's coming across, and it's certainly, at least the game at the weekend there, you can see it. Like, that's why we're using the word like controlled and assured performances and stuff like that, because they're becoming more comfortable. So at least for me, that's the perspective I have on it, and I think that it's just going to continue to grow in that respect. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you make a great point in terms of that, but obviously John alluded to the fact that we're still dominating possession, and I've rolled a couple of match stats at you, like 79% possession, 20 shots, 7 corners. It all points to the fact that Celtic were controlled, dominant, and clinical, doesn't it?
It does, and I think the scoreline does reflect. It doesn't necessarily reflect just how dominant we were, and I think you have to give Xander Clark a lot of credit for that. You know, he pulled off a string of some top saves. I think he's a really good goalkeeper, to be fair. But you know, fair play to St Johnstone. They did give their all. You know, they are the most successful side in Scotland in 2021. So you know, they came there and, you know, played to their strengths. But you've got to treat these games properly. And once we got into our rhythm, nobody was going to stop us. And like Ross alluded to, and I'm not going to try and pronounce our new number 7's name either, in case I embarrass myself ever more. But he looks a real presence. He's going to make a real nuisance of himself, but he has got that instinct and control to take that shot that he maybe wasn't expecting to chance it. He maybe wasn't expecting, and he put it away quite the thing. And after that, like you say, although you're always a bit nervous, it's still only 1-0. It just takes, you know, an awkward bounce of a ball or somebody getting a little break, and it could all change. But our marathons, they're not sprints, and you know, just marking these games off with goals and clean sheets is very, very pleasing. Long may it continue.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Anthony. I totally agree with you on that. But I want to talk about some players, and I think you alluded to the fact that Celtic's new number 7. I'm going to try it. John's probably going to correct me as he always does, but Giakoumakis, I'll go with that pronunciation.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Of that at the minute. But
Giakoumakis. It's not.
Giakoumakis then. But we'll start with him. Have we chat about him, and I'll come to yourself, John, first for this. And he was a presence up front. He's totally different to Kyogo, albeit that Giakoumakis looks like he has pace as well to close players down, but he kind of holds the ball up, links the play. And I wouldn't say he was, amazingly brilliant or anything. I just think he was average. He's done his job. He got the goal, instinctive finish, and as Ross said, he controlled that into the bottom right corner. Yeah. What was your impression of him during that game?
I was glad to see him get his start. I certainly, it's a difficult one for me because I think we've missed that presence in the box, especially when it seems a lot of the games recently, especially, we're utilising the width a lot more, and we're swinging balls into the box. And unfortunately, Kyogo's not the biggest guy on the park, and we've not really got that many. When you're attacking that high and you're pressing that high, you've not really got that many guys packed in the box themselves. So Giakoumakis certainly gives us that presence, and it gives us somebody to target, a target man in the air as well. So we can definitely. I think it's going to be good for us, as I say, in terms of crosses into the box. But I did miss seeing Kyogo going through the middle. I think that's definitely his strongest position, and I hope that's not something we're going to lose going forward as well, because I can see Kyogo's obviously going to be the starter, but it's good having that option, and it was good to see him play. But I agree with you. I think he certainly looks a presence. I don't think he doesn't look the most polished player in the world, but he looks like he's the kind of guy that gets it done when needed. And I think after getting his first goal there, that he'll sort of go strength to strength, and I can see him scoring quite a few. But as Ross alluded to earlier as well, the way he took that goal, because that ball, when it was crossed in, the pace it was crossed in, no many you're snatching at that, and you're either hitting it over the bar or you're just missing it completely. But the fact that he managed to hit it, take it the way he did at the pace it was going at, I thought was fantastic, and it shows you the sort of level of control he's got as well. And again, it sort of comes back to that sort of presence within the box and having somebody there that size and who can bring other people in if the ball's played into him and stuff like that. So I thought it was a great performance. But I thought Giakoumakis is he'll come on. As I say, the more game time he gets, but it's difficult to sort of judge.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. And Anthony, for a player like Giakoumakis, who hasn't really been featuring, he's been injured when he's come in, picked up that injury in the warm-up in one of the games as well, and you think that would kind of dent his confidence, but he doesn't seem the type of guy that affects him. I mean, we've seen it in the European game when he came on, he tried that bicycle kick. He seems to have a confidence, a presence about him. And as John said, if we're utilising that width, and I agree with him, I don't want him to replace Kyogo for the middle, but even as an option coming off the bench in like the 60th, 70th minute, he's going to score a barload of goals, isn't he?
Yeah, he just offers that sort of variety and that sort of unknown quantity that defenders are just not going to enjoy playing against him. And you mix that in with a player like Kyogo, whose movement is just, mesmerising at times. And churning up these, chucking out these results week after week is only going to, getting that winning habit back is going to be so vital going forward for the rest of the season. And yeah, I thought he's obviously, like you say, he was very unlucky and got injured in the warm-up sort of a couple of months back. And we just thought, God, like you say, just our luck at the minute. Is it going to be another injury-ridden season? But these players seem to be coming back now, and we're starting to get almost a full squad to choose from. So yeah, if I was opposition managers and teams, I would be very, very worried if we're on your fixture list anytime soon.
And another thing as well, Ross, me and Francis touched upon this in terms of Kyogo and Giakoumakis playing together. Would you ever see an opportunity where they can play as a two up top instead of sacrificing Kyogo out in the wing? Because I think we can all see Kyogo on the wing doesn't offer the same as he does in terms of through the middle. And just maybe there might be a few games where you can put them two together and see what they can do.
I know where you're coming from there, and I would probably tend to agree with it. But that said, I don't think that Ange will probably go with that. I don't think he likes obviously the sort of front three. I don't know if he could maybe try and put like Kyogo into like the number 10 and play maybe just off him, and still try and keep a sort of three like Kyogo, a sort of bit of a free role. But I don't know. I would like to see it. I'm a bit old school. I like an old school 4-4-2. I don't think it does any harm to mix it up a wee bit against certain teams, and I think that they two could work pretty well. I think that's been alluded to before, that it would sort of work a bit similar to, like, say, Scott McDonald and Hesselink. Obviously, you would have to say that Kyogo's probably a lot more mobile than Scott McDonald, but Scott McDonald is a bit stronger. But I would like to see that maybe utilised in some games. I don't think it would be utilised for the start, but if it's a game where we're kind of faced, maybe it's nip and tuck, maybe one each or something, you're looking for that just to change the game up a bit. I think that's an option that's there going forward. And like the guys have said there, it's having Giakoumakis in the squad now and fit. It just gives you that other dynamic, that other option, and we're in a good place now. We have got options, certainly up top, and we're just in a good place right now, or a good moment anyway, and you can't really fault it. But we've got a lot of options, on the certainly in the front area of the park.
Yeah, I mean, one of them options as well, come back from injury there, Anthony, was Juranovic. And much to my surprise, I was convinced that Bolingoli would have slotted back in at left back, coming back off that European game where he wasn't registered. But I thought he would have come back in and Juranovic maybe took Ralston's place. But again, we'll have to kind of tip our hats off to Ralston. He's keeping a Croatian international from his favourite position, albeit it might be on merit at the minute, and his performances have kind of granted him that. But I think Juranovic on the right is a far better option in my opinion, and I didn't understand why Bolingoli wasn't even in the match day squad. But was that a surprise to you after he played against Aberdeen?
I think it was just more a surprise that Juranovic was actually starting, to be honest, because when we recorded the show last week, we weren't sure of sort of his progress getting back from injury. But yeah, I must admit I was delighted to see him back in the team, albeit I was a little surprised as well that he was on the left rather than his favoured right. Having said that, the performance at Ibrox showed that that's why he's an international class player. He more than looked the part that day as well. He was our man of the match for me by some distance that day. So yeah, I've got no qualms about him playing on the left-hand side either. And as Ross says as well, with regards to penalty kicks, I want him number one anytime we get a spot. We don't get them very often, to be fair, certainly domestically. But anytime we do, I want him to be taking them, because he just looks like he has ice through his veins when it comes to taking them. He just seems to know exactly where to put it and give a goalkeeper absolutely no chance. So, it's great to have him back. He looks a real talent.
Yeah, he definitely does. And what about yourself,
You're
Ross?
that injury's a thing of the past now.
Yeah, I mean, what about yourself, Ross, in terms of the whole Ralston Juranovic thing? As I said there at the start, and even Anthony said, it was a surprise not to see him deployed on the right. But is it a case of Ralston hasn't done much wrong, he stays in the team, or is it just a case of don't have much absence at left back? What do you think it is?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that Ralston, like you say, hasn't done much wrong. He deserves to be in the team. He had an assist, like I said, on Saturday again. And I think with Juranovic being available, I think he's a better option at left back than what Bolingoli is. And I think Bolingoli probably he only came back into the team in that last game. Can't mind who it was. It was against
Aberdeen.
Was it Aberdeen? Was it?
Yeah.
Or was it no Motherwell?
Well, it was Motherwell. Yes, you're right. It was Motherwell.
Aye. So I think he only came back into the team at that moment because Juranovic wasn't available. I think that Montgomery was struggling, and then Montgomery comes back into the team in the European game because he's obviously. I don't know if he was. I think Montgomery wasn't fit for the Motherwell game, but I mean, that's not to say that I wouldn't have Bolingoli in the team at some point, because it's always healthy to have options, and certainly the way we want to play, to rotate things about, and that's. I think we've got fairly decent options in that position. I'm not saying they're the best in class that Celtic probably should and could get, but when Taylor comes back, you've got him. You can deploy Juranovic there. You've got Montgomery who can be played in there. You've got Bolingoli, but I don't think that left back is Montgomery's strongest position. But we've certainly got good options there. I know Juranovic isn't naturally there, but he's played there for us numerous times now, probably more out there than what he has on the right, and he's done well every single time. So I'm not saying I wouldn't have Bolingoli back in the team, but it wouldn't be my first choice out of the options we have for that position.
I mean, that isn't me advocating for Bolingoli to be first choice left back. It's just
I know.
Yeah, it's just because Juranovic, I mean, his pedigree, Ralston's still keeping him out. And come to yourself, John, do you think this is the way that we're going to see Ralston and Juranovic deployed at least until the January transfer window?
I don't know. It's difficult to sort of say, because I would agree that Bolingoli, there's a lot of Celtic fans that don't want to see him wearing a Celtic jersey because they're still hanging on last year. But for me, since he's came in, he's been fantastic. He's not put a foot wrong. He's done really, really well. And with Taylor being out, and Montgomery, I'd agree. I don't think that's his strongest position. I think he's some way off being a regular sort of starter. Who have you got? Your only natural left back you've got is Bolingoli. And I would disagree with what Ross was saying about Juranovic being the better option out on the left. I still think that Juranovic played well enough on the left at the weekend there, but you could see that that's no. I don't think he's too comfortable out there for me. and he would much obviously rather be out on the right. But like you said, he's Ralston's no put a foot wrong, and he's obviously fighting for his place. So I don't know. I expect to see rotation at that position, and it wouldn't surprise me if we're seeing a combination of Juranovic, Bolly, Ralston, Bolly, Juranovic, Ralston, etc. Just at least on the run up to January until we can get somebody in, at least strengthen that position. And we've still got Scales. Remember, we keep forgetting about Scales. He's another guy who we've not really seen too much of, but he looks like he could be a decent player anyway. In the short glimpses we have seen, so I don't know. It's a difficult question to sort of answer, but for me, I think Bolly he still deserves a chance as far as I'm concerned. And until he does something wrong on the park, I don't see why he should be shut out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, Bolingoli for me should be left back. I think Juranovic should be deployed at right back, but again, Ralston's there a merit, and obviously until he has a dip in form, that's probably the status quo until at least the January transfer window. But one thing I want to touch upon is obviously the biggest flashpoint within the game, where the game turned into a UFC fighting match for a brief period. We've seen a kick, we've seen a punch, we've seen Cameron Carter-Vickers get booked after being the victim, which was an absolute disgrace. I don't understand how Chris Kane stayed on the pitch after that. It was so blatant that anyone could see. Even the kick to start with, I mean, the force was a red card. The punch is probably another red card. So whoever's reviewing this incident needs to really come down heavy on Chris Kane for me. And come to yourself, Anthony, first about this situation. Obviously, referees in Scotland, a lot of them get criticised, and we kind of tend to not really talk about referees on this podcast. But this is some kind of thing we can't ignore in terms of what we've seen.
Well, yeah, I mean, incompetence comes as a standard where Scottish referees are concerned, but even by their desperately low standards, I mean, Saturday was an absolute shocker. It really, really was. Even our penalty was sort of debated about, was it actually inside the box? And you're just thinking to yourself, are we actually even having this conversation? It's really, really mind-baffling. It really is. But yeah, the incident itself, like you say, it could actually have been 2 red cards, Stephen. Not like you say, for the kick itself. As I say, the first one, he seems to be, well, it's certainly reckless, but it is a challenge for the ball. I'm not denying that. But then the second one, Carter-Vickers is over the ball. It's clear that it's not going anywhere. And I think at that point, the whistle has sounded. He then has a second kick, and then I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it's 2 kicks or 3, and then it's the punch for me, the attempted punch up for me, the afterwards, and yet somehow Carter-Vickers ends up getting the same punishment as him. I don't know if that, like, unless somebody has to point out. I mean, these wee rule books get handed out every season. I don't know if something's been amended this year, but there's been 2 or 3 of these sort of stramasses, shall we say, that ends up, even although there's one party far more guilty than the other, but it seems to be a thing where the referee's got to punish a player for both sides. I don't understand it. I'm maybe a bit old school that just the guilty parties should be the one that get punished. But it was an absolute shocker. It really was. And but sadly, something that we're all too familiar with when it comes to refereeing domestically.
Yeah, I mean, you've done that really well there, and kind of a summary of that. But coming to yourself, John, as Anthony said, I think there was 2 kicks. I think it was, one was the challenge, and the second one was the big boot, where it was an automatic red cards because you're kind of endangering the opponent there, which is Carter-Vickers already. He gets up, reacts to it, and then he gets a punch in the face, John. And it's Nick Walsh was the referee, yes, wasn't it? Yeah, and he's running towards the incident with the yellow card already in his hand, like he's made up his mind. It's crazy, isn't it?
I do. Honestly, it's absolutely ridiculous. And Nick Walsh is an absolute fanny, plain and simple. I mean, let's be honest, right? See, if you go back and you review that footage, and I posted it on.
So it begins.
I posted it. I posted it on Twitter, right? And it was just exactly that flashpoint, that moment where you could see him kick him. And he did. The ball was nowhere near his stomach. Chris Kane volleyed him, and it was purpose. Like, there was intent behind it. And that, for me, that's a straight red. Vickers is all he's going to react. Anybody would react. You've just been volleyed in the stomach. He go up. Bryson as well was, by the way, was another Ian. As Cameron Carter-Vickers was getting up, he was trying to push him back down. He was holding him by the back of the head, putting weight in his neck. Obviously, a wee bit too feeble to keep him down. He managed to get himself up, and that's when Chris Kane swung at him. And the fact that that Walsh had already ran over there with his yellow card out, and a decision had been made, and then booked Vickers for God knows what reason. I don't know if it was maybe because he got up as if he was going to react, but he didn't actually do anything. And the fact that Kane got away with it when it could potentially have been 2 reds is it's an absolute disgrace, and it just sums up Scottish referees to a T. And I know we've not really touched on it, and I've been quite vocal outside the podcast anyway. I think even Ross had this argument even last night, that Scottish referees shouldn't be refereeing Scottish games, plain and simple, for me, and that's how just I personally feel. I don't think they're good enough, and I think there's far too much carry on in this country in relation to a whole host of different factors that can come into play. And they're just not a high standard at all. They should stick to refereeing like junior games or something, because they're useless. And we need to start looking at bringing in referees for England or elsewhere throughout Europe, because they're absolutely shite.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the Anthony Porter came to him. We kind of tend to stay away from them sort of things, referees, because they do get criticised a lot. But this is issues that.
And do you know what pisses me off as well? Sorry, see if you even mention it, like. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's fucking as plain as clear as day, right? See, when you actually watch the games, it's clear as day how shocking referees are. Anthony touched on it. The standard of refereeing in this country is abysmal, and week in, week out, they get away with absolute murder. And if you question them, you get reprimanded by the SFA. If you as a fan, if you dare bring it up, you're called a conspiracy theorist and all this. They're far too protected, and they get away with absolutely everything. Even the day, right? After the game at the weekend, there was very, very little in terms of coverage about the Cameron Carter-Vickers incident. And a lot of pundits and ex-referees and all that were coming out and that were reporting that Welsh was hailed for a brilliant decision in regards to Celtic's penalty. How some referees maybe just let that play on because Celtic still had an advantage, so to speak. But he was hailed for a brilliant decision. And it's like they're purposefully. And these, I'm not getting into the rags, carry on, but they are purposely trying to sway people's eyes. Like, let's just forget about what happened there and don't criticise the referee for his shocking decision here. Let's focus on what he did do well, and that's not good enough.
I totally agree.
My blood's boiling, and I'm ready.
I can hear your blood's boiling, because I thought you were just going to rant for about 10 minutes there, but no, I totally get what you're saying, and that's what I was going to say. We kind of try and stay away from them refereeing, questioning and stuff, because as you said, you do get called out on it. You get called conspiracy theorists, you get called all sorts. But again, Ross, it's decisions like that on the weekend where Chris Kane should have been sent off, no question. And what came into my mind when I seen that punch was, do you remember when Scott Brown got punched by Ryan Kent? And again, that went unpunished. He didn't even get a punishment for that. If he did, correct me, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. But what was your take on that decision?
Just similar to the guys. It was absolutely mind-boggling how he stayed on the park. And by the way, I know we went on and won the game, but at that moment in the game, St Johnstone were still in the game. I think it was only 1-0. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, if he stays on the park, but then if St Johnstone go, just say he goes and scores an equaliser late on, it's an absolute shambles. The referee gets out of jail in a sense that way because Celtic win the game anyway, and it doesn't affect the result. But regardless of that, you can't be putting a guy when he's on the ground and then another guy sort of trying to hold him down and then another like having a swing at him, and then like you say, it's like Anthony was talking about. He doesn't know all these. Maybe there's wee rules being brought in. I'm starting to think that I've not read it, but I'm starting to think that there's a rule brought in that if you try and get up off the ground with 2 guys surrounding you trying to defend yourself, then it's an offence. I mean, Carter-Vickers has done absolutely
Sad truth here,
nothing
Ross, is
wrong.
you're probably right.
He's done absolutely nothing wrong, and I don't know. Again, like you didn't want to be a conspiracy theorist, and all the rest of it. But if to me, if Chris Kane does that at Ibrox, the referee's got the red card out before he's even blew for kickoff. Telling you, man, it's unbelievable how he gets away with that, and he doesn't get away with it at Ibrox. Don't care what MD says. People laugh at me, and the odd Rangers fan who wants to listen to this, maybe even write in the comments that you're paranoid and all the rest of it. But that's the reality. He gets sent off at Ibrox 100 times out of 100 for that. I don't care what MD says. But we go and win the game anyway, and it doesn't matter. But apart from that, it can't be ignored. Even though we go and win the game, it was a shambles their decision, and it's just one in a long line of shambles of decisions.
Mm-hmm. I totally echo what you're saying. I think we've all been spot on in our assessment of that. And as John rightly said there, I don't get why other former referees are coming out kind of hailing him for a decision, which, to be fair, he did play on. We got the penalty he was scored from, but we can't ignore the blatant red card that he missed. And hopefully whoever reviews that decision gives the relevant punishment to Chris Kane. But look, as quickly as that match was over, we're quickly in action again against Hibs at Easter Road on Wednesday evening at 7:45. And one thing I want to touch upon there, coming to yourself, Ross, first, is the game isn't even on TV, and Sky TV have bought the rights to the SPL, and so far it's been a shambles their coverage, hasn't it?
Aye, they don't care about Scottish football. They were just like bystanders. They've got. It's like sometimes I think that the gears like some sort of minuscule deal just to keep idiots like me on side, and will continue to pay. Well, I say idiots like me. I've just cancelled my Sky, so I'm maybe not an idiot anymore. I forgot I cancelled it, but just to sort of appease us so that we continue to pay to basically watch their English Premier League games, and. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching some English Premier League games, but I'm talking maybe 20-25% of the games. Only the bigger games, and sometimes even they're not that great. So, Sky don't give a hoot about Scottish football.
Yeah, and actually, I think Ross is right. I've seen lots and lots of people talk about us on Twitter, mainly Celtic fans and SPFL fans, obviously, but it's an absolute outrage. This happened. I think it was a Motherwell game as well. We were away. It wasn't on TV. BT covered the European game as they always do. And again, we're away from home and we're not on TV again. And it leaves fans in a position where they'll have to fork out more money to watch the game. It's an absolute shambles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, Stephen, because it's actually what actually happens is the league offer up sort of rounds of fixtures for the broadcasters to then televise. So you have a scenario where nobody is on TV. I think although it's a full card in the Premier League over the course of the week, the league itself have not put forward any matches for Sky to pick and choose which games they show. So there's incompetence from the SPFL. But there's also, just like Ross says, a complete, ignorance from Sky Sports as well, because they're let's be honest, any television company that offers up Chris Boyd as some sort of, insightful reporter really is just, extracting the urine with you. But like you say, I'm still one of those idiots that Ross sort of self-titled himself as well. I do pay for my Sky, but no. But listen, we're on the same boat, mate. I watch so that I can watch.
Whatever you're watching, Alfie, I don't think Sky Sports want us to hear it from you. But if we're looking at it, John, as well, I think Alfie's just having a wee bit of technical issues with his mic, but I'm sure he'll be back on
to watch the match because and that's it. It's sorry, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear
cut
you
out
now,
a bit
yes.
there, Anthony.
Did I cut out there? Sorry, but yeah, it's an absolute nonsense that that yet again Celtic supporters are having to fork out for a pay-per-view fee. This might not be popular with other fans of other clubs. I don't even necessarily particularly like it myself, but the facts are this: Celtic and Rangers are Scottish football where broadcasters are concerned. As much as I would quite like to tune into perhaps a Aberdeen versus Hibs or a Hearts Dundee United, out with Scotland, they are not interested. So it's a case of you just have to go on with it. And this whole nonsense of there has to be a certain amount of a certain team's got to be on a set amount of times. I'm quite sorry, is absolute nonsense. The fact that there is a game on Wednesday night, Hibs versus Celtic, one of the kind of bigger sort of blockbustery type matches that Scottish football can offer, but we've got to, put that to one side because in a couple of weeks' time, Dundee might be, going to Tynecastle or something like that, and we've got to be, we've got to kind of spread it out. It's, I'm a socialist, on a lot of things, but sometimes you just have to have a bit of common sense and say, when Celtic and Rangers play away from home, their games should be on the telly. It really is just as simple as that. But yeah, another 12 quid that we have to fork out on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace.
And I'm one of them mugs, Anthony, that's already paid the 12 quid to the Hibs website, so I'll be tuning in.
Listen, I've still got my Hibs TV account from last season, mate. I've already got myself a pay-per-view pass for Wednesday as well. So, yep, I'm an idiot, but yeah, it's what Celtic does to you, isn't it?
Exactly. So I'm among subscription fees, John, I'm on pay-per-view fees, and among going to games itself and paying for tickets and travel expenses. It is an outrage, as Anthony said, that Celtic fans are left in a position where they're forking out another 12 quid. And I know people say it's only £12 for a one-off game, but £12 to families right now in this climate is quite a lot of money, in my opinion.
Well, you're saying that it's only £12 for a one-off game, but that's been £12 for the past 3 weeks. So that's your 36 out of pocket already, and you're not even at the end of the month yet. And as far as Sky, I mean, we know Sky is one of the biggest problems in football in the UK. The English Premier League is in the state it's in, and money is as bad as it is. And this wee bubble that they live in is all thanks to Sky Sports. And as Anthony says, they don't give a toss about Scotland outside the Celtic and Rangers and the Derby games. I mean, let's just for a minute just go to this game on coming up on Wednesday. Sky have opted, and I don't know the ins and outs, Anthony, so I might be wrong here, but surely when it comes to a situation like this, Sky maybe approach the SPFL. After all, they did pay for a 5-year deal or whatever the case was, and then say, what games can we broadcast or what games are on? They should know anyway. And then say, can we come and broadcast in such and such a game? You've got Rangers, Aberdeen, you've got Celtic, Hibs. And yet Sky have opted to show Liverpool's clash with Preston on 3 separate Sky channels, not just the one, not just 2, 3. So it's like surely one of the channels can pick a game up. It absolutely baffles me, and it just goes on to further show that they just don't give a. They don't care, man. And it's ridiculous. And again, they can see. Honestly, I wish that BT would just step in or something like that and just get the rights and then get proper coverage.
I think I think, like you say, John, it's the double-edged sword. It's the lack of interest from Sky, and it's the lack of competence from the SPFL, and that is a toxic mixture when it comes to try to get games on the telly.
But mate, listen, we know the SPFL, the SFA, whatever they fucking call themselves these days, that they are incompetent, and they have been for years. They're useless, and I think that Sky deal that they got offered was probably the first deal they tabled, and then they just work it. They were just, we'll take it because it's better than we had previously. So we're just going to take it. We didn't. There was probably no element of haggling, no try to push for a better deal, no even seeing if there was competition, if BT or that want to offer it. Amazon even are getting into it now. and they're broadcasting games through Amazon Prime. It's like I would even take that. Like if Amazon was to come in and say, "Here's so many millions for the Scottish games, and we'll broadcast all these," Sky Sports can get to fuck.
I mean, it's quite ironic as well that I believe anyway the SPFL's in probably the best shape it's been in 10 years in terms of teams, squads, and strength within the league. But look, we'll look ahead to the league game against Hibs at Easter Road, and I'll come to yourself, Ross, first for this. They're coming into this game on the back of a 3-0 loss against Dundee United and a 1-0 loss against Aberdeen. No goals scored there, which is quite evident. And Celtic are going in 4 games, 1 on the bounce. Do you think this game could throw up a potential banana skin? Easter Road in the past has been a difficult venue, but from my point of view, I'm pretty confident that we can get the result and even the comfortable one at that.
I'm always confident. You have to go into all Celtic games confident that they can win. Otherwise, what's the point? But Hibs have definitely went off the boil. You've touched on their last couple of results there. So I feel that we should be looking to win this game off the back of the form that we're in and the form that they're in. But again, it's a trip to the capital city. It's always tough for them, sort of. Not always, but it goes out the window. But I think we should have enough to win that game on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I think as well, the confidence thing is coming among Celtic fans now, Anthony, in terms of what we're seeing on the pitch. And Aberdeen, a team that were in crisis, going into this Hibs game 1-1-0. Their manager, Stephen Class, was basically out the door last week, but this result could propel them to a win and run. And it looks like Hibs to me are on a sliding slope down the table. We're above them. And that's why I'm feeling that we can kind of get a win and a comfortable win. But what's your opinion on it?
I think you always, as Ross says, whenever we make the trip across the M8, it is always a tough match. I mean, we have to forget we've not won in the league at Easter Road since 2014. And we've only won once since then in a Scottish Cup tie, when just after Brendan Rodgers departed for Leicester. So it has not been a happy hunting ground by any means for us the last few years. But like you say, the forum that we're in, the forum that Hibs are in, you know, for all their talented players, they've not really kind of got off and running this season. They've had a very stop-start campaign. So there's everything there is there for us to go and get the win. But yeah, I think it'll be a tough game, but I think, like you say, we should really be looking to win it.
Yeah, 100%. And John, what about yourself? The feeling at the end of the game? I mean, Anthony makes a great point. I mean, I'm going to be totally honest, a wee bit naive that we haven't won there since 2014. I personally didn't even know that stat, but that's kind of stark in terms of how difficult Easter Road in the past has proved for Celtic. But the form for Celtic at the minute and Postecoglou, the confidence through Celtic's team, I just believe we're going to get that victory.
As we say, it's like Hibs seem to be went off the boil a wee bit. We are starting to pick up a bit of momentum, so but that pendulum's definitely swinging in our favour, and I'm confident that we're going to continue a run of sort of gathering points. And I mean, I didn't realise that stat either myself, but I mean, I stopped paying attention to all that carry on. I just focus on the game as it comes now, and. I'm confident that we're going to pick up 3, and I really hope Aberdeen do the business as well.
Mm-hmm. And come to yourself, Anthony, for this lineup prediction and scores. What have you gone for?
I think we'll go for obviously Joe Hart and goals, and I think it will be possibly very similar to what we had on Saturday. So the same back 4. We may find Abada might come back in, just depending on how his sort of fitness. I don't know if he was taken out of the match on Saturday just to sort of give him a rest, or if there was maybe any niggles or anything like that. But I think we're in such good control at the minute that he might not decide to shake things up too much, especially when we've got a home game Saturday at 3 o'clock again coming up at the weekend. So, you know, I'm actually, you know, he might 1 or 2, but I'm actually going to change my mind there, Stephen. I think you might just go for the same again from Saturday.
And what about score then? What are you going for?
Oh, yeah, sorry, you asked me the score as well. I'm going to go 2-0 Celtic.
And John, same to yourself. Lineups and scores.
I think it's going to be the same lineup against St Johnstone. I don't think there's going to be any changes. And I'm going to say 3-0.
3-0. And Ross, same to you.
I personally think it will be the same lineup as Saturday. The only maybe one that might be a change is Kyogo back through the middle. He might put Jota out wide, and maybe he might give Mikey Johnson a run out. But then again, he might try and do that in the home game at the weekend. So I would probably go with the same team as Saturday, just because I think Giacomakis gives you that presence, certainly in an away game as well, to try and get in toppy teams. Scoreline, I'm going to go 2-0 Celtic.
I'll go Hart and goal, Ralston, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, and Juranovic. I'll go on the midfield, Beaton, McGregor, and Turnbull. I'll go on the right-hand side, Mikey Johnson to get a start. Kyogo through the middle, and Felipe Yada on the left. And I'll go personally 3-0 scoreline. But look, that brings us to the end of the podcast. And I mean, it's been a great show. And we as a podcast group have some news for the guys who are especially listening on YouTube. This will be our last audio video on YouTube, which is very exciting. We're going to go video from episode 67 onwards. This seems to be a process that's took ages, but it's just because we had to get everyone sorted, everyone with the right cameras and things like that. And it's an exciting time because we're going to take that jump in the video. Yes, it'll be still available on audio and the likes of Spotify and iTunes. But come to yourself, John. You're the man who's done this and kind of brought us to this stage. How excited are you to be going video on the podcast?
I'm just glad to get you off my fucking back, to be honest. I mean, it's taking a bit of time because, like you say, it's and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but no, everybody is technically minded, and these things you can't just expect people to jump in head first and know what to do. So it's just making sure everything's done right and everybody's ready and set up to get that ball rolling. And it's taking a little bit longer than we'd maybe have liked. And I appreciate, obviously, everybody, despite the constant shit I'm getting, actually just seeing it out. But hopefully, us taking that extra step will help the channel grow a wee bit as well. But thanks to everybody that's continued to tune in and supported us.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a podcast, John. We're giving you shit. We're giving you this gentle encouragement. That's
I
all
was
joking.
It was.
But what about yourself?
No, I was definitely giving me shit.
What about yourself, Anthony? Going video, how you feeling? Is Anthony with us?
Thank you.
But Ross, I'll come to you because Sky has silenced Anthony again. How you feeling going video?
I'm very excited. I don't know if it'll be me it's on Thursday night. But,
I think.
Oh.
And this is why we want to wait and make sure things are right.
But yeah, looking forward to watching you all, and good luck for the first one. And I look forward to not only listening but watching you as well on when it gets released and the following day.
Yeah, and what about yourself, Ross? How you feeling?
I once again pretty excited. I don't know if it'll be me. It'll be on Thursday night. But I've got my hair appointment booked and all the rest of it to make myself look tip-top condition for the visuals. But no, seriously, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think, fingers crossed, it'll help us, like John says, grow a bit more and probably get a wee bit more interest, because although audio has been good for us, I think it'll be better to go off people's like facial expressions and stuff as well.
Yeah, all our faces. And to the guys who are listening, the next time you're going to see us on the YouTube platform, you'll be able to put the names to the faces. And a great podcast, everybody. And to people who are listening, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.